Hello, in this video I will be performing a brief tutorial of the GIS GUI from text to map, which is used to create information-rich maps from your corpora. For simplicity's sake, I will be using one of the pre-downloaded text files located in the sample data folder of the NLP Suite, which is a singular text file. And since we are using a text file, the NLP Suite will extract locations first using Stanford Core NLP, and then use the NER values found, such as the location and country, etc., to then geocode locations. The fourth row here shows the option for using a Connell table, in which you would select which column the GUI will look at for location names. Since we are not using a Connell table, this was not applied to our example. In this row, we can select whether or not to geocode locations. In this case, we do. We may also choose between Nominatim and Google as a geocoder. For more information about the two, I recommend looking through the tips file Geocoding. This will help inform you about your options within the NLP Suite. Here is the tips file for geocoding, which will provide more information about Nominatim and Google and various factors of geocoding within the NLP Suite. Moving on from the tips file, here we can see the options for restricting or biasing location data. The country bias allows you to bias locations for a specific country, and the area section allows you to enter a specific geographic area to bias for using coordinates. We may also restrict this in order to turn this from a preference into a strict requirement. For more information on the specifics of these two, please refer to the tips file, Geocoding Improving Nominatim. And here's the tips file, which will show you some information about the country bias widget, area widget, among other things. The next row allows you to select whether or not to map locations. You may also choose in which format. We are going to use Google Earth Pro and Google Maps. And this next row is for configuring the API key needed. To obtain an API key, you must create an account. More details are available in the tips file, Google API key. And here's the tips file that will show you how to obtain your API key and how to set it up within the NLP Suite. Once you have the API key, you can click this button and paste your API key into it. We've already configured this section, so let's move on. Now we are ready to run the GUI, and you can press the run button. Once the GUI finishes running, you will receive an output that looks like this. Among these will be a Google Maps heat map, as well as a Google Earth Pro map, as well as a few bar charts, which we will go into now. The first being a heat map showing some of the density of locations mentioned in your corpus, as well as a Google Earth Pro map with each specific pinned location. Now let's move on to some of the bar charts that were generated. This first one is the frequency distribution of locations found by Nominatim. As you can see, the locations are mapped on the x-axis. And for example, the highest frequency is Texas, which would be correlated in our Google Earth Pro maps as well as heat maps. Now let's move on to the number of distinct locations found and not found by the geocoder. As you can see, a vast majority of locations were found. Finally, here is a frequency distribution of NER tags, so state or province, city, location, and country. This would give you insights as to what actual locations are mentioned and their NER tags. I hope this clears up any questions you may have had and clearly demonstrates how to create maps using the NLP Suite. Of course, there are even more files and output that we may not have covered, so I highly encourage you to experiment with this GUI yourself, and I hope it proves to be useful.